and welcome back to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 1 on Culture, Section 3, Lesson 3 on Change and Sustainability. I'm Miss Fleming, and I'm excited to get started on this topic, so let's get going. So first we have to define what is sustainability. Well, sustainability is the ability to be maintained at a particular level. For the purpose of this lesson, we're going to be talking about environmental sustainability, which means the depletion of natural resources must be balanced in order to maintain the environment. The concept of sustainability has become more prevalent in the 21st century as we are experiencing the effects of globalization and climate change. Before we get too far into the lesson, I'd like for you to take a look at a Google Jamboard. Please pause this video and reflect and complete the brainstorming activity that I have below for you in Brightspace. What you think you can personally do to be more sustainable. Let's talk about the positive and negative effects of globalization. Modern technologies have made it easier for people all around the world to communicate. This increased capacity has allowed for more rapid sharing of artifacts, mentefacts, and sociofacts. We talked about that in the first lesson of this section, talking about culture and change and time-space compression. As countries all over the world are experiencing the effects of globalization, the way of life on Earth's citizens is changing more rapidly than ever before. Some effects, such as, say, better medical care and communication technologies, are positive, but there's also negative effects as well, like the popularization of consumer goods and also fast food, which we're going to talk about in detail. So with such a large demand for consumer goods and digital communication devices, the demand has increased for energy to power those goods. They all have to come from somewhere, and they have to be powered by something. This may result in the use of more fossil fuels. Reason being is because fossil fuels has been the main form of energy throughout the world. So let's talk about some causes and consequences, which we talked about earlier in the section. So here's a cause. Many people around the world are using digital devices and buying consumer goods. Okay? Here's a consequence. Demand increases for energy to power those goods and transport them to the consumer, which therefore makes another consequence that more fossil fuels are used, which affects sustainability. The same can also be said for food production, along with the use of water and land resources on top of fossil fuels. So with such a large demand globally for fast food, there's a high demand for beef and other animal products, but beef most specifically because most fast food involves hamburgers, cheeseburgers, which are beef products. Beef production requires a lot of energy, plant protein to feed cattle, and then water to sustain them. So let's take a look at this cause and effect chart. Cause, higher demand for fast food. Consequence, more animal products are produced. Another consequence from that is a large amount of energy, plant protein, and land and water resources are depleted. Let's take a look at this chart on energy required to produce food proteins. So this is from your textbook. It's figure 1.78. The energy required to produce food protein, specifically beef, you look at the amount of liters of oil that needs to be used to produce beef. You mightn't think of fossil fuels being connected to food production, but remember, as a consequence, fossil fuels are the main form of energy that is used throughout the world, so it always has a connection to that. Let's look at the amount of water required, and you could see beef production requires so much more water than other things, even than other popular animal-based proteins like chicken. So this leads us to calculating our ecological footprint. If we're going to live a more sustainable lifestyle, we need to consider the consequences of individual choices. One measure used to assess the degree of which lifestyles are sustainable is referred to as ecological footprint. Let's take a look at this map. This is figure 1.79 from our textbook. And this here, if we take a look at the key, which is colored, this gives us the ecological footprint of various countries throughout the world. You can see that the countries with the highest ecological footprint are the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. Canada comes in very close to that with 6.0 to 7.5 GHA per capita. And then the lowest are mostly throughout Africa, some in South America and Asia, and also Greenland. So how do you calculate your ecological footprint? Well, it's calculated by the area of land and the amount of water a person or population requires to produce the resources they consume and absorb their wastes. Today, humanity's ecological footprint is almost 50% higher than what the planet can regenerate. I'm going to explain that in a moment with a chart. Remember, we paused, reflected earlier in this lesson. I'm going to ask you now, when the video is finished, to please revisit your brainstorming activity. Is there anything else that you think you can do that you can add to that list to decrease your personal ecological footprint? Let's take a look at that chart. So as of 2005, ecological footprint then would require 1.3 planets worth of goods, worth of energy, land, water, in order to sustain what humanity was using. If there's a rapid reduction in energy use, land use, and water use, that people are more cognizant of their ecological footprint, we could get back down to a sustainable lifestyle for the planet by 2050. But if we continue on, or if we had continued on completely unchanged from 2005, the trajectory was going to be up to 2.4 planets by 2050, which couldn't happen. So since 2005, which you might not be aware of, a lot of governments throughout the world have put in things like carbon taxes, decreased their ecological footprints in other ways. Of course, we've seen the rise in use of electric vehicles in the last couple of years. We need to continue to do more. I don't have all the answers. I don't know exactly what the best path forward is. All I know is that we need to take care of our personal decisions and make sure that we do what we can to help the environment. All right, now it's time to review. I'd like for you to complete the activities in Brightspace. There is an activity there on calculating your personal ecological footprint. You might need some assistance with that. You might have to ask your past teacher, your parent or guardian, whoever you live with, because there's a couple things that are household issues that you mightn't know of, say your kilowatt hours that is used, or if you use a vehicle, how many kilometers per liter that vehicle consumes. Okay, so you might need some help with that. I hope you enjoy those activities and that they're enlightening for you, and enjoy your day.